So the agenda looks something like this. So we would first talk about how to use Linux on the CAN on the Linux terminal, then CAN using Python, then CAN using robot framework, and then finally a demo of how we can generate these scripts for you, where your testers don't have to learn any of these syntaxes. Right. So the first thing that we typically do with any CAN system is, so the first thing that you need to do with any CAN system is get the CAN bus up, right? So in Linux, uh, so when we talk about virtual CAN, right, on Windows, yeah, all of us use vector. So we use the virtual CAN of vector, or we use busmaster, which is again in a virtual environment you could simulate. In Linux, it comes with a virtual CAN setup. The OS itself has that, right? So we need to enable that. So for enabling that, we have a command. So we need to use sudo modprob VCAN, and this would basically enable the virtual CAN on Linux. And once you have enabled the virtual CAN, now you need to create a virtual CAN port for yourself. So we create a port called as VCAN 0. If you're connecting a hardware, then you will actually configure CAN, not VCAN, right? So you could also connect any hardware to Linux. You don't need a driver. You can directly use socket CAN, and you would be able to communicate with vector, with busmaster, with no driver installation. Right? So I already have it set up. So it says it's done. And then I have to now turn on the VCAN. So I'm turning on my VCAN 0. Right. So now my virtual CAN is up in Linux. Once my virtual CAN is up in Linux, the next thing that anybody would want to do on CAN is enable the trace window. So when we open vector or busmaster, the first thing we see is the trace window. So how do you enable the trace window in Linux is using a command called as can dump, and you listen to your bus. So okay, I have some code running. I'm just going to terminate that. Sorry. So my bus is already in a listening mode. So clear. So can dump VCAN 0. So I'm in a listening mode now. So my trace window is on. And the next thing that you tend to do is send a CAN message on the bus, right? So for that, I'm opening a new window, right? So I've got CAN dump waiting in a listening mode. And then I use the message can send, right? And I'm sending it on CAN 0, that's my bus. And every CAN message needs to have a message ID or a frame ID. So that's my frame ID. Then I have a delimiter, after which I start my data, right? So that's an 8-byte data. So you see, I send the message on VCAN 0 with the message ID 001, followed by an 8-byte data, and you see that getting received here. Right? So that's a simple send and a receive on the terminal. So I have a can send command for sending and a can dump command for receiving the messages. I have lots of variants of can dump where like you see in your text trace window, you could see the time, the absolute time. Is it a TX? Is it an RX? Right? So you just need to enable a few flags and then you will be able to see them. Or sometimes you may want to record this log onto a file. So you could record the log also onto a file. So you could just, so I would share the links to can dump showing you different parameters that you could use, right? So if you see, there was nothing called as DLC here. The DLC got auto calculated. So if I try to send a message again, you see here, so it's 8-byte, it's 2-byte. So the DLC field is here and it just calculates the byte that you're sending and just prints it here. So that's a simple can send and a can dump. So it's receive and transmit. Now, sometimes you may just want to play with it. So there is a random CAN message generator, which the Linux Python commands provide. So I could actually say can gen VCAN 0, and it would actually generate random CAN messages on the bus. As of now, everything is random, but then again, CanGen also has options to say what should be random. You could say DLC to be random, you could say data to be random, you could say IDs to be random. As of now, what you're seeing here is the ID and the data length and the data, everything is random. But you could customize that also. I just use a control C, stop it. Right. So I could actually say CanGen minus help, and it gives me all the options of how I could enable and disable the randomness of this CanGen message. Similarly, I could actually say can dump minus help, and this would give me all the options of the can dump command. So if I want to store into a log file, if I want to see the absolute time, how do I do that? So I could actually say minus X. And I could actually send out something here and see it gives me the TX to tell you that it's transmit that's received. I could keep changing the parameters here and actually get it like a detailed trace window. Right? So we've seen three things as of now. We've seen how to, right. So we've actually seen the usage of can dump, where it's more of a trace window that's listening to the CAN bus. You could listen to just a particular CAN bus, or you could also listen to any virtual CAN that, or any CAN that is enabled by using can dump any. Then we saw how to send a CAN message. So we use can send, the bus name, the message ID followed by the data. And then we saw how to use can gen, which is a random CAN message generator. Right?